told the story in like a Robert Service kind of a style, believe it or not. That kind of storytelling narrative.
Wow.
And I was just a kid. So, I didn't have time to know any of that or learn any of that. It was just that was in me. And I was writing for a long time. And I really never thought about it. So I created my own board game. And I'd have the kids in the neighborhood playing this game where they had to do stuff, And it was just like, I was always doing some funky thing as a kid that was, unusual. Like,
now you're just doing funky things as an adult.
I know! You see where I'm going with this. I was born with that too. I don't know.
But what about the music? Were you born with the music too?
Well, when my mother says that she used to put me on stage when they were entertainers, so that's how they earned their living. It was showbiz.
Both your parents?
Both parents, yeah. They met doing this. My mother was brought up in it in Brooklyn. There's pictures of her with the big flowers, costumes and the thing where she's like, I don't know, 10, 11. So she won one of those competitions in New York that's for child stars that you saw in like the movie Beaches. I've got the award in my bedroom. So it's a long, weird history of vaudeville houses and, and theaters and things like that. For my mother and, coming through, my grandmother used to tell these stories.
Well, were you doing music before you did poetry?
Yeah. I was like 3 or 4. They used to say when after shows, we used to go, they used to work the New Jersey clubs in the 60s and all. And they worked the Latin Casino and Cozy Morley's and different places that aren't around anymore. They rented a place in Wildwood one time, and the musicians would come back to my parents' rental, they'd send my brother and sister to bed. They would keep me up, and they would jam the musicians at night in the living room, and it was pretty neat, because I would be having them come in, like I would cue them in, so I would scat with them, like that kind of thing, and I would bring him in, and I'd set the rhythm, and I'd have them start with their jazz, jamming. I'm not going to do it, but I could do the horns and everything. So that kind of thing. But that was a pretty young age to be into that, but I had a big sense of rhythms. I remember that being a part. It came out in words later. But
So nowadays, do you find it easier to perform the music or the poetry?
The poetry. Yeah, what's funny? I
would think that. I mean, I'm not a musician, but it would seem like playing music it would be a lot harder.
It's so funny because before I started to do it out, and it was just me and my guitar, that was my most connected to what I was trying to say and who I was and whatever kind of self-expression I was trying to get out of me. It was the music. So I would pick up my guitar and belt out whatever the song was, you know what I mean, and mean every bloody word. And I always chose those kinds of songs that touched me in such a way. So that was in your room, that's great, or on your back porch. Frank used to listen to me on the back porch when we were neighbors in Sharon Hill before we ever got together. I used to take the guitar out there and belt out the songs. There was one that's like always was I had to always sing it, and it was Carla Bonoff, and it's called Never Stop Her Heart. And I do that when I play out because it was a caged bird, and it was somebody who had cut off so many feelings and didn't want to go there and was in a life that was just, stifling, to put it mildly. And she gets out at the end of that song. And, he thinks he can hold her down, but he can't. And that's what that song says. And that really talks to me. And I used to sing it out back, but, belt that off. That was always at the end of the night when I was tired, that was the song I would go to. That'd be the end song. And Frank would be listening, I didn't know.
Evidently I was talking to Frank too.
Right. And it was nice because it was dark and the moon was out. And it was, whatever time. It didn't matter to me if I was outside. I'm an outdoor person. It just does something to me being out there. You know, it's a lot of my poems talk about skinny dipping at the reservoir after work at midnight or whatever. But there's something
Is
about
going
that.
out now.
But I mean, that was it. It was like after a hot night of working at the deli or whatever was going on. I was on my way out to the reservoir, and it was just something spiritual about that.
Physical too.
Yeah, just the whole thing. It was just, backflip and watching the stars. August is fabulous because you have the Perseids meteor shower. I'm all about that. You got to be out there August 15th.
Which is why your first book is called Shooting Stars.
Yeah, that's it. That is so weird. I think, and a lot of my poems talk about that so much, how fleeting that is. You see it, but you don't see it. It's so fast. And I think that's what time is. I think that's what life is. We are not here that long, and I think that's why poets connect, because we all have such an appreciation for what is happening every minute. We're more mindful than the average guy. You're stuck in traffic, and you're looking at, oh my God, look, the moon's coming up over there. It's Holy Toledo. It's a super moon, whatever. It's fabulous. Everybody else is cursing at the Toyota in front of them. And poets are like, oh my God. Look at the moon! It's coming up. And the kid's fabulous. And I think that's where we all connect. We all connect. Poets, I think, wallow in things. Yeah. Good things and bad things. I mean, that's what we are. So we recognize each other,
Yeah,
and I think, you look at the commercials coming out now. I love it. It makes my heart happy that I turn on the TV and they've got a Penn Medicine or something is doing a commercial, and they're using Dylan Thomas's Rage Against the Dying of the Light. The rest of I'm like, yes! We brought it to the mainstream. People get it. In the old days, poets were like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people like put that, and now with the
now they relate it to real life.
People aren't really right. And I think we're bringing people around. And there's the other one, this song with the open road. With Walt Whitman's on a commercial with the cars. And so whoever those people, I'd buy the goddamn car. I tell you what. So that makes my heart happy. And poets like Billy Collins make my heart happy because I really believe that humor is a way of touching people that aren't into poetry. Like I've taken people who aren't poets to Billy Collins. He's like a stand-up comic. And it always gets you poignant points at the end of those poems. He's always got something that you go, wow. I see that every day, and I didn't quite see it like that. But now I do, There's those kind of lines and poems that stick with you.